Today, we dive headfirst into one of the most underestimated revolutions in tech and geopolitics. How a Chinese open-source AI model, yes, open source, has triggered panic in Silicon Valley boardrooms and challenged America's software supremacy. Let's start with a name you may not know yet, Deepseek R1. Developed in China, this reasoning-based AI model can rival the likes of OpenAI's GPT-4 and Anthropic's Claude. But here's the twist. Deepseek R1 was trained using just $5.5 million, yes million, not billion, and with 2.8 million GPU hours on downgraded NVIDIA H800 chips due to US export bans. The secret? A mixture of experts' architecture that activates only 37 billion out of 671 billion parameters at a time, radically cutting computational costs. And unlike its American counterparts, Deepseek is open source. Anyone can download and run it locally. It's lean, fast, and free. Why does this matter? Because the US AI economy is built on the assumption that bigger is always better. The so-called neural scaling law tells us, more compute, more data, more money equals better models. That's the logic behind the $800 billion Stargate project led by OpenAI and Oracle, an investment nearly the size of the entire US defense budget. That's why Microsoft is reviving nuclear plants to power data centers, and Elon Musk installed what NVIDIA's Jensen Huang called a superhuman number of processors for XAI in just 2 weeks. But Deepseek suggests we might not need all that. It's a direct challenge to the gold-plated arms race in Silicon Valley. Now let's bring in Manus.ai, another Chinese firm pushing the frontier of what's called agentic AI. These systems don't just answer questions, they act. You give them a goal, and they figure out how to get there. Think of them as digital assistants on steroids, navigating, extracting, coordinating. Even Meta's Yann LeCun praised Deepseek not as a win for China, but as a win for open-source AI. Meanwhile, leaders like Dario Amodei at Anthropic took a more nationalistic stance, calling for Western models to outperform Chinese ones for security reasons. OpenAI, for its part, released a position paper titled AI in America, arguing that failing to fund US models would only strengthen China's global influence. This debate is about far more than just code. It's about sovereignty. Right now, the US controls the global software infrastructure. Of the top 50 software companies in the world, 48 are American. Microsoft alone is worth nearly 10 times Germany's SAP. The US monopolizes operating systems, app stores, search engines, and cloud services. And cloud, don't forget, is where AI models live. Just ask Andy Yen, founder of Proton Mail. He put it plainly. Europe is a digital colony of the United States. If a US president like Trump wanted to cut off Greenland, he wouldn't need tanks, just an executive order to shut off Microsoft, Google, and Amazon Web Services. But what if software becomes swappable? That's the real threat from open-source AI. For decades, whoever controlled the platform won. Windows, iOS, Android, Chrome. But with AI, there may be no single dominant platform. Anyone can modify, anyone can deploy. Even Google admitted it. In a 2023 internal memo, someone wrote, "We have no moat. Open source will outcompete us. No moat. No fortress. No guaranteed monopoly." Now let's talk about scale, because this is where China shines. If you build for 1.4 billion people, you can scale to 3 billion. That's why a good enough Chinese open source model could absolutely crush a proprietary billion-dollar US model in the global market. And behind all of this? Chips. China still imports over 80% of its semiconductors, but it's catching up. SMIC, China's top chip foundry, reached the 7-nanometer milestone in 2023 with the Kirin 9000S, despite bans on extreme ultraviolet lithography. Public subsidies for AI and semiconductors now exceed $55 billion, and in 2024 alone, China opened 18 new front-end chip factories. Firms like Huahong, Yangtze Memory, and Byron Technology are expanding rapidly, especially in mature chip markets like automotive and power electronics. The US, by contrast, relies on private investment and Wall Street performance, and that's risky. The entire American stock market is now closely tied to tech. Strip out the NASDAQ and US growth looks fragile. Which brings us back to Deepseek. This model challenged every assumption the American software industry held sacred. Its efficiency, architecture, and cost made it a symbol. And its founder Liang Wenfeng said it best. In the face of disruptive technologies, moats built with closed code are temporary. The AI race is no longer about who has the biggest budget. It's about who can adapt fastest, scale widest, and unlock global participation. So here's the real question. Is Deepseek just a cheaper model or the start of a systemic reset? Either way, the moat is gone. The race is global, and it's not America's game anymore.